This is it, lads. The Premier League is back. Football has returned, null and voiders are firmly in the mud, and with the new Premier League schedule, there is genuinely a game every single day until the year 2167, but it's still all to play for up and down the table. And I mean, well, apart from up at the top of the table, because, I mean, it's not really all to play for there, because there's quite a sizable gap between Liverpool and the sort of... So given we're in unprecedented and largely unpredictable times, I'm going to attempt to predict the rest of the season. Now, as I said, unpredictable is a word that is going to describe this segment of this campaign because there's been a total reset. I can't imagine it's even been as intense as normal pre-season is, so fitness is going to be an all-time low. There'll be massive amounts of changes in the starting 11. It'll be an absolute disaster for fantasy football managers everywhere. So we might as well start at the top of the table. Liverpool are currently on 82 points and a ridiculous tally clear of second place. We're 2 wins away from the title, and our next 2 games are up against Everton in the Merseyside derby and then Crystal Palace. Now, obviously, for me, it would be great if we beat Everton, that goes without saying, but on a personal level it would be sick and some kind of redemption to win the league with a win over Palace. Definitely still not salty about Galegate. Trust me, I'm not. I've moved on. I don't know what you're talking about. And plus, if we get those 2 wins, we get a guard of honour at the Etihad, which probably just takes the biscuit over the course of the season. Pep Guardiola and his lack of hair follicles will be crying internally. But yeah, I mean, listen, I don't necessarily care about any of that stuff. I just want to win the league, and I don't want to jinx it. I probably will jinx it. This is Liverpool we're talking about. But the season, the campaign, and the league should be done as far as that's concerned. After that, it's then whether we can beat the all-time record set by Pep Guardiola's Manchester City of 100 points. But I do reckon we'll lose one more time before the end of the season. I don't know who against, but I can just see it happening. Do you know what I mean? Now, Manchester City, they're not actually that far clear of Leicester, but I can envisage them finishing in a very, very lonely second place. They got a game in hand over the sides just behind them. That game in hand is against Arsenal, so I imagine they'll not only be getting the 3 points, but boosting goal difference quite spectacularly. If you look at the other case studies across Europe, including, you know, Germany predominantly, the big teams have come back and really thrived. And by big teams, I mean the teams that are actually good on paper, that have maybe been underachieving across the course of the season, like a Bayern Munich. I can envisage that happening here, Manchester City coming back, kind of being back to their old ways to an extent, and that could really help them push away from third place Leicester. Speaking of which, Leicester City in third place. The Foxes were in pretty tragic form for the whole of 2020 and going into this break. And I think some kind of reset will hopefully reset them mentally so that they can actually go back to the form they had in the first half of the season. I think they've got the power and personnel to be able to just about pull this off and hold on. And I mean hold on. There'll be a little fingernail just holding on, like not like Mufasa because he fell. I don't know if that's a spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched The Lion King, but listen, you don't get too attached to that guy because he's but chasing them down for the all-important battle on the top 4 is the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Manchester United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Sheffield United, and even Wolves as well. I think some of the most important games, especially when we first come back, because it could set the trend for the rest of this, like, small mini season, is the fact that Manchester City play Leicester very early on, and the fact that Leicester play then Chelsea as well very early on. Now, getting into the Champions League will be extremely important, in my opinion, for Chelsea, who haven't struggled financially and obviously aren't struggling right now when it comes to transfers. They're splashing cash all over the place, but have posted significant losses over recent seasons. They have obviously just brought in Hakim Ziyech from Ajax, and they're on the verge of bringing in Timo Werner from Leipzig. You'd imagine that anyone else they've been linked with, like a Kai Havertz, would probably expect them to be playing Champions League football next season though. So it is imperative if they're going to really revamp the whole team. Jadon Sancho is another one. Will it be easy? Absolutely not. There's a lot of good teams coming for them. Pause. And I always do worry about that youthfulness and exuberance and inexperience of Chelsea at the moment. The likes of a Mason Mount and a Tomori and a Tammy Abraham. Can they necessarily lead them to the Champions League when things get mad? Do you know what I mean? Now, Manchester United next. And I hate to say it, but they look really, really good before the break came in. Bruno Fernandes signed in January, and he seems to have revolutionised the whole midfield and their creative side. Obviously, Martial will be back. Rashford scored a hat-trick in that first, like, practice game at Old Trafford. Paul Pogba will be back in action, you'd imagine. He's shaken off the injury. I don't know whether Ollie will put him straight in, but they're back to the full complement, and they could really, seriously, I'm not dicking about here, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could get them in the top 4. But they've got to play Sheffield United in a week, and that will be a big game because Sheffield United obviously are going for the Champions League places unbelievably as well. I think that would genuinely be the greatest achievement from like a small club perspective. Obviously, since Leicester, they literally won the league. But before that, since like Ipswich Town getting in the Champions League like 20 years ago. Crucially about the Blades, they've got a game in hand, and it comes against a very leaky defence in Aston Villa, which they could quite easily exploit. Sheffield United do have to play United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, Wolves, and also Leicester, however, before the end of the season. But in saying that, they've taken points against all of those teams already this season, apart from Leicester. In conclusion, I don't know. But all I'm saying is I wish Chris Wilder was like my second dad, because he's a G. Now, Wolves is a very difficult one, because on paper, they've got a really nice run in. It's mostly mid-table and relegation-threatened sides. But the problem with Wolves is they're the teams they're terrible against. I'd genuinely back them if they played Manchester United or Manchester City from now until the end of the season. But they're playing the smaller teams, so... Plus, if the Europa League is restarted, that could seriously hinder them, given I think we're still in the round of 16 phase of that, so they could have a lot of fixture congestion in the next month and a half. So if it is restarted, I think Wolves could be in issues there. Both the North London sides are kind of in it, but kind of out of it as well. Like, they're a bit too dead to put in the top 4 category, but they're a bit too historically big to say, yeah, nah, they're not going to be in it at all. I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what version of Tottenham is going to come back after this restart. Harry Kane is back from injury. He was obviously going to miss the entirety of the season had it ended as it normally would have done. So that could really improve their form, but they've just looked dead all season, whether it's Pochettino in charge or Mourinho, really. They've got a tough run in as well. Obviously, they're just generally speaking in a transitional phase. But one positive is at least that the break did come at a good time. They'd just been doppied 3-0 by Leipzig in the Champions League. So at least the memories of that game and Serge Aurier being borderline not a footballer will have faded into the distant memory. Arsenal have got a game in hand, but it's against Manchester City, so it's not really a game in hand. Aubameyang's hairline is 17 years ago in the past from before they even went invincible in the league, so I don't think they've got a chance. I think it really is going to just depend on how they do against City. If they can scrape a draw, or even just get a good result, even if it's just a 1-0 or 2-0 defeat against a team like City, then I think they could just hold some kind of confidence, hold their heads high, and potentially move forward with that. Their run-in's a bit of a mixed bag. They've got some difficult games, but some games you'd expect them to win. But again, the side is so youthful and inexperienced with so many youngsters having to fill places that they really shouldn't be because of injuries. And I just don't know how they're going to cope in the run-in situation. There's no pressure on them, I guess, because they're not expected to get into Europe. Now, mid-table now, and does anyone even care? Really? Can we just skip this part? I don't... Now, Burnley is a really interesting one because I've seen loads of people predicting that they're going to do badly for some reason in this second half of the season, I guess. But their run-in is peng. They've got like 2 difficult games maximum, and the rest are against sides that are around them or below them. The only thing that's going to be a struggle for them is that Turf Moor isn't going to be a fortress anymore because everything's played behind closed doors. I don't know what their home form's been like this season, but traditionally, Turf Moor is where they get most of their points. Everton and Crystal Palace are way too inconsistent to be able to make a full-on, you know, proper challenge for the top 8, in my opinion. It's same for Newcastle and Southampton, really. Their runs before now have saved them, and they're just kind of vibes in, really. They're not going to get in Europe. They're not going to probably even get in the top 10. They're just out here. They can just chill out now, really, at this stage. Now, relegation is a scrap and a half, and I mean a brawl. I mean, 6 Utes just punching each other all day, every day. We've got Brighton, first of all, who are, I think, in the worst format of any of the teams involved in the relegation battle, barring maybe bottom place Norwich. They haven't won a single game in 2020. And I know games finished in mid-March, but that's still 2 months of either draws or losses. That's not great. The next 3 games for Brighton include Arsenal, Leicester, and Manchester United before a relegation derby against Norwich. And it could be a really, really bad start to the restart. And again, that's what's really going to redetermine form. everything before now kind of doesn't matter. Now, West Ham, Watford, and Bournemouth are all on the same amount of points, on 27, just 2 behind Brighton and like 7 behind Southampton and Newcastle. Starting with West Ham, and genuinely the only reason I care about this club is because they're considered big, and because if Millwall get promoted next year, we could see the best derby of all history in the Premier League. But otherwise, the consistent shitness of this football club genuinely gets on my nerves now. How many times are you gonna buy good players and end up underachieving, sacking your manager, and bringing in an equally underwhelming replacement year on year? Just do something different. When you had Dimitri Payet, it was brilliant because it was like, wow, West Ham are good. And to be honest with you, from their own perspective, it's massively important they stay up as well. They've spent like 200+ million in the last 3 or 4 seasons. So if they go down, even with those parachute payments coming in, that could be a sticky situation for West Ham. Now, Watford. Yeah, they can definitely go down. I don't know about Watford, you know. I don't hold any sort of grudge against them, and I really respect the comeback after being slapped about 8-0 at the start of the season. I don't know, they've shown a bit more character and fight this season to come back from being bottom by a distance to now at least out of the relegation zone. They've got a nice run in as well, so I'm kind of leaning towards them staying up. But if they do, it's going to be very close. I'm talking like 1 or 2 points or goal difference. Now, Bournemouth, I want to stay up. I want a very few people, it would seem, on Twitter these days that actually likes Bournemouth, but they have wasted a lot of money on some pretty dead transfers recently, like Jordan Ibe and Dominic Solanke, and woo, thought it was a good idea to buy Solanke for 20 mil. Moving on to Villa, the worst defense, or one of the worst defenses in the league. They're gonna have to tighten that up if they're gonna stay up. They got Sheffield United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Wolves, Manchester United, and Arsenal to play in the final 9 games. If they stay up with that running, it's genuinely a miracle. And to be honest, it's the same for bottom place Norwich as well. They're just done out. I don't want to hear it. The Pookie party ended a solid 9 months ago, and now look at us. It's the Cantwell Conga, maybe. But that now leaves us with what I'm actually predicting the table to end up as. Position by position, which I'm definitely going to get wrong so badly. Liverpool top, winning the league. Let's be real. And I'd be a little bit concerned if we don't break the record from here. We'd have to lose 3 games to not do it, and we've only lost 1 in the previous 29. So, City a very distant second. I think they'll stretch away from Leicester to at least 9 points, or whoever happens to come third. And third place, I am going to go with Leicester, but I think they're going to scrape it, and I mean scrape it marginally. I'm not talking about some easy, simple thing here. And now this is the big one. 4th place, and theoretically the final Champions League spot, though that will vary when it comes to Manchester City's European ban. But assuming they maybe get that overturned, this could be a very, very important position. If they don't, then obviously 5th place will get the final Champions League spot. It's all calm. But you're going to be very shocked when you hear what I say for this one, and I am predicting that Manchester United are going to finish 4th. I rip them all the time, but yeah, they're only, what, like 2 points off Chelsea? And I don't think either of the teams have a game in hand, so... And I've just been so impressed by how they've been since Bruno Fernandes joined. You know, I ridiculed the fact that he got in the team of the season. He definitely still shouldn't be in team of the season after like 5 games, but he has revolutionized them from what I've seen so far. I think him and genuinely fully fit and in-form Paul Pogba could push them up to the top 4, and if they can keep Rashford and Martial fit too, I genuinely think they can finish in 4th. They've got an okay run-in compared to everybody else in the battle, so I don't see why not. And then I'm going to say Chelsea coming in 5th. Now, obviously, I mentioned it's very, very important in terms of their transfer dealings this summer that they get into the Champions League. But again, if that City ban is upheld, then it might not matter anyway. I just think that inexperience is going to drop them below Manchester United. 6th place is going to be Sheffield United. And I know, I'm really sorry. My heart says that I desperately, more than anything, want them to get into the Champions League, but I don't know. My head just says it's not going to happen. Like, I think without the break, I genuinely think it could have done. I think it might just be a little bit too much. But a Europa League campaign for Sheffield United, after finishing, in essence, 5th in terms of a European situation, would be ridiculous still. Now, 7th and 8th is dependent on what happens with the Europa League, and I'll explain. I think if the Europa League and the Champions League aren't restarted, Wolves will finish 7th, but I do not see them being able to juggle the Europa League in such a short, condensed period of time with the Premier League and maintain that position. If the Europa League is restarted, I think Spurs will finish 7th instead, especially given they've got Harry Kane coming back. That will ultimately provide them a bit of a boost to the rest of the season. Arsenal 9th, average run-in, but average squad, young and inexperienced. And watch out for them next year. I think Arteta will be able to get some sort of plan and some sort of style of play implemented into his side. And I don't really see a change in fortunes for Arsenal, so I'm putting MP9. I'm putting Burnley in 10th position because they've got a nice run-in, ultimately. And I think they'll stretch away from the teams just behind them in terms of the mid-table battle. Maybe barring Everton, though, who I'm going to put in 11th place. Again, I think they've just got the best quality out of the mid-table side, so I can see them really pushing forward and, you know, just stretching away from the bottom end of the mid-table. I'm going to say Southampton in 12th position, and I'm going to say Palace in 13th, dropping quite a little bit. And then Newcastle, who, for the same reason, haven't got the greatest of run-ins. I can see them dropping below Southampton, but that's still a pretty good season. Now, I know I said that Watford would be very touch and go in terms of staying up, but I'm actually going to put them 15th. And that's not because I've changed my mind halfway through this video. I just think the relegation battle is going to be that tight. I could genuinely see a 2004/2005-esque relegation battle where it goes down to the final day with like 4 teams that could still get relegated. I'm going to put West Ham in 16th because ultimately they do have the ability and the quality in the side to stay up. So for that reason alone, plus the running isn't absolutely catastrophic, I can just about see them surviving. And 17th, listen, I'm copping out. I'm copping out, lads. You can boo me all you like. Listen, I honestly cannot tell you who out of Brighton and Bournemouth will survive. I sat down thinking about it for half an hour, and I'm gonna flip a coin. Bun the feds, I'm gonna flip a coin. I have random Hungarian currency on my table. If it lands on the 10, then Bournemouth survive. If it lands on the other side that I can't remember what it is, then Brighton survive. It landed on the 10. Brighton, I'm really sorry, but you're going down. And then obviously with that, it's very self-explanatory that I think Villa will still go down. Not massively cut adrift. I don't know if they'll take it to the final day of the season, but that running is a killer. And then it goes without saying, Norwich bottom. Lads, you might as well just start preparing for life back in the Championship. So let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Who do you think is going to be occupying those magical top 4 spaces? Who will get the Champions League? Who will get in Europe? And who will be relegated? Be kind in the comments section, okay? But if you enjoyed this one, then slap a like on it. And of course, subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.